One, two, three.
Welcome to the Smartest Amazon Seller podcast. I'm really pumped for this conversation. It is the conversation for the beginning of 2026 and kind of recapping how a lot of changes in the way that business works, the way that business on Amazon works. And I finally have someone that's going to teach me more about AI visibility. This is something that I've done a lot of my own efforts on it, but I know I have gaps in my knowledge. So, and I'll tell you why that like this guest is like going to be perfect. On top of being an agency owner, working with brands like Skechers and Jacuzzi, top recommended agency inside of ChatGPT. One of, so has clearly understood how to get out there and get trusted, but spends some time as well. We're going to talk about how getting products on Amazon and brands on Amazon mentioned in ChatGPT. So without further ado, I've got Yona, founder of Amazon Growth Lab.
Scott, so excited to be here, man. Funny enough, Scott and I met on LinkedIn, I don't know, what was it, like a year and a half ago?
Yeah, a little over a year probably.
Hopped on a call, immediately liked the guy, and it's an honor to be on your podcast now, man.
Thank you. Well, so let's jump in. You know, it's Amazon is like kind of in this like really weird spot inside of the new paradigms of search, of people like getting answers from ChatGPT. Amazon controls a ton of like awesome like assets, like their marketplace, their products. They're like everyone like is buying on Amazon more than ever, but people are becoming informed outside of Amazon in a different way. How have you seen this? How are you seeing like we just before the call, we were like talking about the robot.txt file. So clearly like there's some technical know-how. Let's just jump in.
I love it. Okay. First, let's break it down in layman's terms, right? You're asking the billion-dollar question, which is how do you get number one spot on an LLM, right? Doesn't matter if you're talking Claude, Perplexity, ChatGPT, every single brand wants their product to show up. So for example, right? Let's say we're dealing with Colgate and someone's asking, hey, my teeth are hurting. What toothpaste should I change to? Colgate obviously wants to be number one, but that's one of hundreds of thousands of prompts that people can ask around toothpaste, right? Yeah. So, just to break it down into layman's terms, essentially what you're asking is how does a brand show up on an LLM for the top keywords that have purchase intent? Is that right?
Yeah.
So what's interesting is, if you're selling on Shopify, if you're selling on TikTok, it's actually even easier. If you're selling D2C on your own website, it's much easier. When it comes to Amazon, it's still doable, but there are a couple loops that you have to walk through. So let's break down why that is for starters. Yeah. So you mentioned robots.txt, right? That's jargon that probably everyone that's listening, they have no clue what that means. All it is HTML code, right? So you can put this, every website has a robot.txt. So you can have a developer go to your website and specifically change your robot.txt to tell, all LLMs, chat, Perplexity, etc., and says, hey, you're welcome to scrape my page. And also, here's a little bit of insight into what our website is all about. That way, when an LLM is scraping your page, they already know, hey, they're welcoming us to put this information on our platform. And here's a couple of snippets in order to understand that we're putting it in the correct context. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah.
So for starters, have you done this for Smart Scout?
No.
Cool. Well, one, I would recommend doing this as of tomorrow. Maybe today. Don't know what your bandwidth is looking like, but that'll make a nice difference. Obviously, it's not like there's going to be one solve in order to get indexed on an LLM, but it's a starting point.
Yeah.
Amazon has specifically changed their robot.txt to tell LLMs, essentially, stay the hell away, right? You are not allowed to scrape our website. Now, what does that mean? That essentially means Amazon fears that LLMs are a threat. Why do you think that is, Scott?
Well, the first thought is agentic commerce. That's where like you ask ChatGPT to buy something and then it just does it.
Totally. So what's the problem with that in Amazon's eyes?
Uh, well, they don't get any advertising dollars for starter.
Bingo.
And
There's no starters.
but
That's honestly the whole picture.
okay,
I mean, essentially, that's, you know, Amazon's a massive company. Ironically, their, you know, revenue from advertising from an Amazon's perspective compared to AWS, almost non-existent. Tiny, tiny piece of their business. But for Amazon.com, that's what makes up most of their revenue, right? So the moment that they essentially allow any LLM
yeah,
to have
yeah,
agentic purchases, they know we're going to lose a massive percentage of our business,
yeah.
right? Because
Well,
essentially, you know,
a profitable part of their business.
100%. Great point. So, you know, what that means is Amazon wants to do everything in their power to ensure that with advertising on Amazon, it only happens in the Amazon ecosystem. Shopify has leaned into it. Other platforms have leaned into it. But I know you mentioned before we were even talking, you know, that's a little confusing because I've seen Amazon products recommended on an LLM before,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So does that mean that Yona's just making stuff up? Question mark.
And actually, and if you ask, if you could even ask them like, show me the best products on Amazon, and then you'll
Yes.
get even more recommendations on Amazon.
100%. So you can definitely see products that are on Amazon, but the question is, what is the path to actually get there? Right.
Yeah,
So with LLMs, they're not going to Amazon scraping the page and then picking a product. It could be one of 1,000 ways, but it could be, hey, they're scraping Reddit and Quora and they're finding a product that's hyperlinked of an Amazon page in there and they're taking the description in the Reddit post. It could be a press release, right? I can go through many different examples, but what that means is, you know, while it matters what's on your page on Amazon, right, from a SEO perspective, and like, you know, within your images, what the actual copy is in there, which we can get to in a moment, the path isn't an LLM scraping your website like they would do with Smart Scout. The path is going through other platforms. And if, you know, a company like
right.
Colgate is mentioned enough in YouTube videos, PR releases, Reddit and Quora mentions,
Yeah,
etc., then they'll get visibility.
I think of a lot of it is like these LLMs. They're kind of like the body of knowledge that they have is basically the internet.
Totally.
You know, like the blogosphere, the news, you know, sites, the social sites. They kind of have a mixture of everything, and like, there's different trust signals. There's different different levels of clarity about what it is, but that's their input. And so if they're recommending a product on Amazon, it's actually usually the off Amazon stuff that's influencing that.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. Okay, so, you know, there's a few elements that we can break down here. One, I wish we had 4 hours because this conversation could keep going forever. But,
Right.
you know, I'll be mindful of your time because you're a busy man. But, you know, I think first it's important to understand that the old model of SEO on Amazon is dead. Now, what I mean by that is we
Yes.
used to be in a world where everyone would go to Helium 10, you know, they would use tools like Cerebro, and they would basically, you know, keyword harvest, and they would keyword stuff as much as humanly possible.
I mean, I remember for years, like people were like, it was like a new concept. Be like, hey, there's this thing such as like keyword. You got to make sure you put it in your
Totally,
content.
totally. Because no one's going to read it. No one's going to read it. It's just a matter of, is the algorithm going to pick it up? And it's like, hey, use the word toothpaste 26 times. Make sure you're using it more than your competitor,
Right.
which is
Right.
silly, but it's all a matter of like, how do you game the system? So
Sure.
the reason that it died is because, you know, it used to be that doing that for a product of going through the process of using Helium 10 and keyword stuffing, it could take 6 hours to do it right for one listing, right? So for a brand that has 25,000 SKUs, it's not really possible to go through that whole process. Now it's like,
No.
you know, someone's grandmother can do it in 15 seconds. So the barrier to entry is much easier. And then Amazon has no choice of like, you know, it's almost like the line if everyone's special, no one's special. If everyone has, you know, optimize listings from a keyword perspective, then no one
Yeah.
really does. So the algorithm needs to find a new way in order to figure out which product should we recommend, right? So in comes, conversations around Rufus. And the question is, like, for you, Scott, what do you think the tactics are? What are the, the needles that you can move when it comes to trying to get indexed organically?
Shoot. I mean, there's uh obviously there's like multiple signals. One of them is like we all know that like existing sales is a strong, like signal,
For sure, for
but
sure.
let's exclude that. And like when it comes to content, it's uh clarity, specificity to like the use case. So like there's a big relevance conversation going on of like if someone types in, barbecues for a camper or like on like on the go, they know that there's certain barbecues they're not going to recommend because like they need to be like fixed. So in your content, if you have like great examples of how to use your product, like next to like the back of a pickup truck or like over here or whatever, that like that will help Amazon understand the relevance that's like not keyword based but more like use case, um, and yeah, like more.
Totally. Totally. So I agree with that completely. I would take it a step even further, right? So like what I'm hearing you say is like the sentiment of your descriptions is more important than the keywords that you're using. Is that right?
um, yeah.
Cool. So, what I hear there is title, bullet points, description. Essentially you need to change the model in which you're tackling it. But there are other
Yeah.
elements too, such as, hey, all of your main images, right? Images used to just be beneficial from a state of, are we converting? But now, Amazon's algorithm is scraping every single image, right, in your A plus content and in your infographics, and they are looking at every single word in every single image, right? That is a part of, and I do in air quotes for those who are just listening, SEO, because, essentially all of that is text that is relevant to your listing as well. Now,
Mhm.
if you want to take it even a step further, right? People like to use Helium 10, Jungle Scout. Those are all great tools, but there are a lot of tools within Seller Central that I'm shocked to say that I would say over 90% of brands that come to us don't even know exist, right? So if you go into brand analytics and you go to search query performance, that is one really key spot. And the second is you can go into Product Opportunity Explorer. No, that's not just about trying to find what new product should I list. You
Yeah.
can go in there and you can go to Customer Review Insights and you can specifically see, not from a third party, from Amazon themselves,
Yeah.
what are the exact phrases and the exact sentiments that customers are looking for. So,
Well, Yona, you know those specific sentiment analysis right there,
yep,
Amazon actually has it on the API. Like they they don't want people downloading reviews. They want to kind of control that, and they not only do they give it to you on Seller Central, they give it to you through the API. And about a month ago, we started putting those like out on the Smart Scout product. Like so.
oh,
Um,
I mean, we're on the Smart Scout Enterprise plan, and the team is
okay.
absolutely obsessed with it. And
Okay.
I wish that I could say,
Well, what I wanted
90
to say, what I wanted to say to you is like I'm on the same page. I love that sentiment analysis so much so that where I was like, we got to bring this in.
100%. So, okay, the moment that you're taking those exact sentiments and you're ensuring that you're putting it in your infographics, you are starting to move the needle, right? So, for example, when someone goes to Rufus and they say, right, we see on the back end of toothpaste, people are saying, really helpful for sensitive teeth. Now, if you put in your infographic that exact sentence, really helpful for sensitive teeth, someone will be going to Rufus and they will say, "Hey, I need toothpaste that's really good for sensitive teeth. Can you help me?" The
Mm-hmm.
likelihood of your product being indexed goes up immensely due to the fact that you're using that exact sentiment and you are putting it in your infographic, right? So essentially, there are hundreds of prompts that you want to go after. And that's one starting point, right? Let's figure out what are the most high intent prompts, what are the ones that are the most accurate to our product specifically,
Mhm.
and then put them in infographics, right? So then there's a balance between, you talked about sales help as well for getting, mentions within Rufus and organic visibility. The reason sales help is because all Amazon cares about is what's going to make them the most money, right?
Right.
They're a business. That's what they care about, their bottom line at the end of the day.
They want a happy, successful transaction.
Totally, which comes down to two metrics, right? One is click-through rate, and the other is conversion. They
Yeah.
have a finite amount of space on the top of their listing or in Rufus when someone is searching something for a product to be listed. And they know that if you click on 3 products and don't buy anything, you're much more likely to go to walmart.com or to ChatGPT and go elsewhere. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, the next thing is figuring out, and once again, you can use these same tools. In brand analytics, you can see within the toothpaste category, hey, in the past quarter, what was with all the top 20 competitors, what was their average conversion rate for a specific keyword, for a specific phrase, right? Like,
Really.
and I'm
Yeah.
making these metrics up in real time, but it could be like, toothpaste for sensitive teeth had a 3% conversion rate on average. If you have a 9% conversion rate, of course, you're going to be very likely to be shown at the top of the page or via Rufus because Amazon knows they're likely to make more money from you. If you have a 3%, you're average. You're not an outlier, right? So it's really, figuring out how do we raise our conversion rate to be an outlier, ideally 2, 3, 4 times above the market average.
So, this, well, I always want to ask like what increases the conversion rate there, but that's a slight distraction from like, I think
Totally.
you did a great job of explaining like the next generation of SEO and AI visibility, where like we're beyond keyword stuffing. It's not like keywords, like they're helpful signals, but it's not like we're telling you, oh, go put this keyword in your content right now and you're going to like, you're going to crush it. Um, it's more of like a complete, this is just a little bit, this is just my opinion, but it's like a body of content that's very specific to like what
For
people
sure.
actually want.
Totally.
And so, um, uh, what's the next step here? Is this,
Great question. So what we talked about so far is how do you get visibility within Amazon's platform, right?
yeah,
We're just talking about how do you get visibility in Rufus, right? Cosmo, and how do you get visibility organically when someone's searching on the top of Amazon? Now let's bring
yeah,
it back to LLMs. Essentially, what we've all learned so far is you can't really change your Amazon listing in order to get visibility on LLMs because they're not scraping that page. So while the tactics we talked about so far of changing your images, changing the, bullet points description are helpful from getting indexed within Amazon's platform, we need to take an entirely different approach when it comes to getting indexed outside of Amazon's platform, right?
yeah.
Cool. So next, what are things that are helpful? What do LLMs love? One, press releases. You don't want to overdo it, but even doing one once a month, once a quarter will make a massive difference. Sorry, I'm getting a phone call. I got to decline this. 99% chance they're about to call back, but we'll see what happens. Press releases, super helpful, right? Next, Reddit and Quora mentions, right? So, something that we're playing around with, and, it's still in early stages. So anyone tells you with 100% certainty, this is what's going to get you indexed over the next 10 years, they're lying in the sense that,
No, no.
LLMs are changing their algorithm on a, monthly basis. So things that we're even toying around with are, having, for example, 200 Reddit or Quora accounts that have very high karma that are talking about products of a brand, right? In a very natural way, specifically utilizing, high intent prompts that we know are going to be talked about. Why is that helpful? LLMs love Reddit and Quora because they are viewed as a source of truth.
Well, it's kind of like I felt like Google loves Reddit too. You know, it feels like right about 2 years ago or 3 years ago, like a Reddit thread being like in the top 3 or 4 responses for just a search, um, like just totally surged. And I don't know, there's just something organic about it, like that just feels authentic um, in a
Yeah,
world
so
that,
I
you know,
I agree with that, and ironically, we live in a world where everyone is trying to find loopholes. And what I mean by that is to succeed on Amazon, you need to constantly find an edge, right? So LLMs in this moment are saying, hey, Reddit and Quora are a source of truth because Reddit has really intense policies in place that will ban comments that are not, natural.
helpful. Yeah,
AKA, if you make a new Reddit account, right? If you were to make 200 Reddit accounts and start posting content, none of those posts would be visible in those sub forums because that account has really low karma, right? So
yeah,
initially, an account has karma of 0. I personally have a Reddit account I've had for 5 years. I've made 3 posts on it. The karma is still 0, even though the account is 5 years old, because it
yeah,
hasn't gone through the whole process of scrolling through, liking people's comments, commenting, right? Like how much engagement has there actually been? So, what we've toyed around with is, getting to a point of having 200 Reddit accounts that are high karma for this first step, difficult process, but we managed to tackle that. Then the next step is, starting to have posts that are organic. The moment that you slip up, even, once, the account will end up being banned, right? So you need to be very careful about how you go about it. But this is a process that allows brands to have hundreds of mentions of their brand across these platforms. And over time, if someone is searching on ChatGPT and chat is now basically indexing LLMs and it's going to Reddit, it will recommend an Amazon product, but not because it is scraping the Amazon page, right? It's
yeah,
basically going to Reddit, it's indexing and it's seeing, hey, 200 people have hyperlinked and talked about this product on Reddit. Great, let's
yeah,
recommend this on chat. And you're basically circumventing Amazon, which Amazon doesn't want.
yeah.
Did that make sense?
Um, well, you're saying how many on the Amazon doesn't want part? Like they're circumventing the content on Amazon. They're getting the information like what's the best creatine off of like Reddit, Quora, and but
Yep.
sometimes they will link to Amazon because of the rest of that body of knowledge.
Yes. Okay. So I see what you're saying. You're saying if they end up going to Amazon and purchasing the product, then it should be fine. Like Amazon's making the revenue, they're not unhappy. Is that
Yeah,
is that right? Is that what you're saying?
yeah, yeah, kind of, yeah,
Yeah. So there is truth to that 100%. But if we go down a path where it ends up being that 90% of the time, people, instead of going to Amazon, are searching on ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is going to press releases, Reddit, Quora, etc. We can talk about a couple other examples too, and then buying the product through chat. Long term, Amazon will lose a lot of their ad dollars. So yes, they're making revenue from those sales, but they view it as a long term threat. And the way that Amazon works is, and you know this, I'm sure, they basically want to go into a new industry, lose money on it to get rid of all the competition, and then jack up prices. So they can't
yeah.
really do that here.
No, well, it's at the end of the day, it's like control of the customer, um, and there's some spaces here where they're not controlling the customer the way that they used to.
Yeah, for
Uh,
sure. And right now it's a minority. Like I forget the exact metrics, but it was something like there was like a 40% bump in Shopify sales just via purchases that came from ChatGPT. you're not seeing those same metrics from Amazon for the reasons that we stated above. But I think there are people in the Amazon boardroom that are very nervous that that will eventually happen.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's why, like, I think a previous podcast, I said I was happy that Amazon did the buy for me thing where they were surfacing Shopify product results on Amazon and allowing people like actually just to buy right there. And it wasn't that like I loved like the feature, but that I loved that Amazon was doing something, that they were like
Totally.
trying, they were experimenting. They're like not sitting back and letting stuff happen to them. Um,
100%.
so, um, yeah, like I want to see more reactions and more like I like it'd be awesome if Rufus was good. Like, but right now I can't honestly say that like I use Rufus ever.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I agree. You know, I think with most of these platforms, it's about getting ahead of the curve before it becomes good, because it inevitably
yeah,
will, right? And it might be
yeah,
in 3 months, it might be in 6 months, it might be in 3 years, but the brands that basically crack the code before the masses come will be the ones
yeah,
that end up having the most success.
totally.
Other,
Uh,
tactics are, sorry, go for it.
no, no, no. You go.
Okay, so Smart Scout has a blog, right? How often
Yeah.
do you guys post blogs?
Once a week.
Cool. Funny enough, we live in a world where the internet is almost like it's a place where people don't even read anymore, right? There are just like AI agents using LLMs to post blogs just for the sake of getting indexed and not really with the hopes anymore of, hey, we're going to build an audience that's going to love this content, that's going to read
Yeah,
it
yeah,
really
yeah.
quickly.
Not totally. Yeah.
So what that means is, once again, if everyone is doing something, no one's really doing, in the sense that you're not an outlier. You're not different. You're not special. There's no reason for an LLM to pick, if you're doing a blog a week and it's really easy, and every single other player in the space, Smart Scout's a little different, where you don't have direct competitors, doing the exact same thing, or at least that many.
No, no.
There's a handful,
It's niche.
but for a brand like Colgate, if you basically decide, hey, let's have a blog where we post 2 blogs a week, you're going to have hundreds of toothpaste brands that are doing the same, right? Which means, once again, you need to find a way to be different. So an example of that is 99% of blogs don't have images, or if they do have images, they just have custom stock imagery. So what does that mean? If you have custom images, right, graphic designers that are making nice pictures that have text in them too that are relevant, you are going to stand out. You are going to be different, right? Because LLMs know, hey, everyone likes to throw out as much text as humanly possible. Hey, look, this might actually be a real blog. This person either hired a designer and is like, making tasteful graphics. This looks different.
One thing that we just tried as we've tried to increase our visibility is instead of it's actually like tables, like comparison tables, but like in HTML format. So like if we're comparing a few different things and like maybe price points or like use cases, like we actually build out that table. So it's like structured knowledge. I actually don't even know the results of that yet, but I don't know, seemed like a good idea.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. I mean, with these things, it's also like, if you started it recently, you're not going to see results in a week or 2 weeks, right? You really need to do this for 3 months in order to have a large enough sample size to see how
Uh-huh.
things are being indexed. Out of curiosity, how are you tracking your Ahrefs was the old model of tracking
Yeah. Um,
Google visibility.
I've used 3 different visibility tools.
Cool.
I've
Which
tried
ones?
Profound,
Cool.
Surfer SEO. I used that one for 3 months, liked it.
Cool.
And now I'm trying Scrunch AI.
Sweet. I haven't used Scrunch AI. I've used the other two. I've also used Right Sonic. But the truth is, there are hundreds.
Yeah.
And I do kind of think that we're too early in the space to know that, like, hey, one tool is the gold standard, because every
Now,
tool is trying to figure it out.
I mean, having used those, like there's just different flavors. And I mean, I already missed Surfer SEO a little bit, but Scrunch is,
I mean, what I find is when you're using 2 or 3 tools at the same time, you're actually able to get a broader
mhm.
understanding, right? If, for example, Colgate is getting, top 3 placement on their, top 10 prompts that they're really trying to go after on one tool, but they have no visibility on the other tools. For me, that's not a success, right? It's like, hey,
Yeah,
we need to be visible on all 3 in order to really have confidence and
yeah,
clarity that this is working. And I
yeah.
almost think that like relying on one tool at this moment in time isn't enough because it's just such a
Um,
new horizon.
well, I mean, Yona, I really think there's a lot of actionable things that you've gone over. And even just from an awareness, people may not be ready to, like, I don't know, create, engage with Quora and Reddit in a, or do press releases, but that's just like kind of the edge that's kind of needed these days. I want to take a step. There was like I just always am interested in um, what it takes to convert on Amazon. It's 2026 now. Like,
Yep.
how do you become an outlier on conversion? You're thinking on behalf of your clients all the time, and there's nothing
Yep.
that will help you more than increasing their um, conversion rate. So, what's the new?
Is it helpful to share a visual? Like what
Sure,
percentage of
yeah.
people are listening to this versus watching
Um,
this?
Most people are listening, but like you can
Cool.
share and we can like explain what we're seeing.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll share it and you'll see it and probably no one else in the world will.
We throw this on YouTube, so if you're
I like it. I like it.
there,
You
we
can see my
go.
screen?
Yep.
Cool. So this is a funnel that we built that basically breaks down the process of, how do you ensure that you're starting to get to a place of organic visibility? And I'll walk you through a handful of the levers that you have. So we talked about this before. You want to go to search query performance, and we want to ensure that, for starters, how is our click-through rate compared to the competition, right? Now, most brands, they basically just hope, right? What we want to do is we want to quantifiably figure out how do we get more clicks than the competition, right? So an example, just to kind of look behind the scenes, for sunglasses, right? We had a brand that was essentially getting, you can see here, out of the 1.6 million searches, for the keyword sunglasses men, they got 1,021 clicks, right? So that's, if I do the math real quick, because unfortunately I'm not in a place where my mental math is that good. We can see they had a 0.06% click-through rate. That's not good, right? So the first question is, before we even talk about converting, how do we get more clicks? Because if people aren't actually clicking on your product, it doesn't really matter, right? On Amazon, you're not just selling a product, you're selling an image, right? You can't touch it, you can't feel it, you can't smell it. So first, what we do is we run a consumer insight report, right? So for example, you can see here, we're blurring out the name of the brand, we're blurring out the price, we're blurring out the number of reviews. We just want to know from a picture perspective when, in this example, it's, small sample size, 50 US Amazon Prime subscribers. Ideally, you have a larger sample size, but this is just an example as a reference. Um, you know, when your target audience, and you can break it down more granularly, right? We did this with PickFu, which is a partner of ours who we love. And, for example, if you're selling construction shoes, you can just do it to construction workers, right? Here, we did it for only men because these are men's sunglasses. And we can see our client got no clicks. This product over here, right? You can see from this heat map on the screen. And if you're listening, you can't see it,
Yeah.
but that's all right. There's one product that visually there's a heat map and you can see it's getting over 90% of the clicks. Okay. So we know it's not price. We know it's not reviews, right? Those are all blurred out. We know this is just the image. So to be honest, if they don't change their main image, they won't, it doesn't even matter if they're split testing to convert because they won't get enough traffic. Does that make sense, Scott?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. So next, right? It's like, cool. With AI, it's not that difficult to create 50 different iterations of images, right? Create 50 different images, split test them against one another again, right? With PickFu, once again, here you can see we ran this test to 100 respondents that are men. And we saw, hey, we got a clear winner here. 52% of people liked this image. Now we take that winning image and we run the same initial test. And now you can see
Wow.
we are getting more clicks than the competition.
What's funny, I've seen a lot of PickFu tests, but like for some reason, seeing like 3 back to back like this, kind of like amplifies like, okay, this is how you do it. You don't just do one.
Yeah, I think, PickFu is a tool. With every tool, it's how you use it. And it's a
Right.
funnel, right? So it's a matter of like, if you just do this first test and we see, hey, we're getting less clicks than the competition, okay, so now we can just be sad. But it's like, no, we have a tool that we get to utilize. And it's like, the truth is, this final image, it took 2 weeks to get to. It's not like suddenly we created new designs and we won, but you need to keep reiterating until you're getting a picture that's going to get more clicks than the competition.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Then, now you can see that they just had the market average conversion rate was 1.66%. They had a 2.15% conversion rate. Okay, within this space, we wanted to get 4 times higher than the market average, right? Kind of aggressive, but we believe that we could do it. Now, what are the levers that you get to pull with conversion rate? Reviews?
I mean, the easiest, hardest one to stomach is pricing.
Yep, absolutely.
Or like a coupon on pricing.
Totally.
Levers, again, you don't completely control your reviews, but boy, is that it does matter whether you're 4.2 and 4.5.
Yes and no. I mean, I agree you don't completely control your reviews, but there are intentional things that you can do. So for reviews, for example, if you're launching, we always recommend put a handful of UPCs on a product, send in 30, enroll it in Vine. If you get good reviews, great. If not, let's slap on a new UPC and do it again. Right? And this is a way of basically intentionally ensuring that when you're launching, you're not at the whims of the Vine reviewers. We're deciding whether or not we like the results that we got and deciding whether or not we want to move forward with that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Next, if you have 4.2, this is when working with Amazon content creators can be helpful. If you have a 4.8, this doesn't have as much of an impact. But if you're basically having creators that have videos and pictures using your product, we know that that's going to increase conversion rate as well. And, it depends for reviews if you want to be work with gray hat tactics or not. But we don't need to go down that rabbit hole right now. The next is infographics and A+ content, right? All of these are things that ideally you are split testing, right? And it's not just a matter of, I hear a lot of people complain about, hey, I ran a split test. The results weren't that different. Split tests take at least 4 to 6 weeks. So once again, I would start off by running a handful of tests on PickFu, which you can get results for in, 20 minutes. And then after you get the results on PickFu, if you run 10 different examples of, hey, what's better, this A+ content or this A+ content out of, sorry, go for it.
I was just going to say, are these infographics that you're talking about, are these like the secondary images, or are you thinking A+ content?
Both. I mean, it applies to both of them. I would test infographics and I would also test A+ content. It depends how big of a brand you are and how many products you have. But obviously, the more you're testing, the more fate and control you're putting in your own hands. But essentially, if you take 20 different A+ contents, test them against one another, and you pick 2 winners from PickFu, and then you take those 2 winners, and then you run a brand experiment on Amazon, you're going to be set up for way more success because you're not just taking initially two that you're testing, you're building a massive funnel.
Yeah. No, I love what you're sharing. And it's so funny that like, you know, how many people kind of just like set it up once and kind of forget it. And I think you kind of show you're like, no, setting up, that's the start of the game. And there
Totally.
really is more game to play. Like,
What I would love to, sorry, go for it. I didn't mean to cut you off.
like I've got, the person that's been with Smart Scout the longest just left to start his own brand because he actually hit about $1 million in sales.
Cool.
And I like want to send this to him like right now.
So good.
Like he needs to kind of like, I know he could grow in his own category and that he's not kind of doing this iterative approach with content just yet.
Well, you know, what we talked about right here was essentially the, I would almost say like the SMB playbook, right? For smaller and medium-sized brands. The moment that you're dealing with enterprise brands, and, you know, we'll have to have another hour slot where we talk about it. You know, we built out something called Creative Cascade, where essentially it allows you via automation to do most of the things that we're talking about at a grand scale, right?
Really?
So for example, for Skechers, you know, they want us to redo 3,000 listings. That's not something that's going to happen quickly. And if we talked about doing that work manually, this would take years, right? But we don't have that time. So, you know, the next name of the game is how do you basically automate a lot of this process and automate the whole process of, you know, once you have a finalized template that a client approved, essentially rolling it out to, you know, and you can use the same example of like, if you have one parent sandal that was approved by the client, how do you roll it out to 60 other sizes and colors, right? And automating the whole process of generating the images via AI, automating the process of creating PSDs, and then also for international expansion, automating the process of how do you change all of the actual text in the infographics to 9 different languages.
Wow.
So whole other
Well,
conversation.
yeah, I
You
know.
know,
I know. You just jumped into something like scaling it sounds sounds challenging. Well,
well, I
shoot.
say that because yeah, please.
Oh, no. You finish.
I was going to say, I say that just because, you know, the conversation is very different depending on the maturity of your business.
Yeah, totally. Well, I usually wrap up. We went a little bit longer than I usually do with podcasts, but it was just so good. So, Yona, thanks for coming on. Thanks for just dropping a whole bunch of information. A lot of it's very like, you know, so nice to be aware of. And the different growth levers that are kind of relevant today. Pumped to see like Amazon Growth Lab is growing itself. So you've done a great job. How can people reach out to you if they want to, I don't know, either see some of the tools that you've showed off or, ask further questions?
Yeah, I appreciate that. If you're a brand and you're interested to taking your business to the next level, go to our website, amazongrowthlab.com. You can just search us on Google or on an LLM, and we'd be happy to give you a free audit as well.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for jumping on. Thanks everyone for listening. Catch you on the next one. And that's a wrap. Take care.
All right. Thanks, Scott.
1, 2, 3.